Welcome back to the Wholesaling Inc. podcast. I'm your host, Brent Daniels, Mr. TTP, Mr. Talk to People. And on today's podcast episode, we're talking all about pre-foreclosures. That's right. It is one of the most powerful lists there is, but it's also one of the most dangerous lists. And we're going to be breaking that all down and giving you the right practices, the right principles for you to approach every single pre-foreclosure so that you can truly help out people that are in a really rough place. Here we go. Welcome to the Wholesaling Inc. podcast. Michael, Franke, how are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me, Brent. Appreciate it.
Where are you located?
I'm in Kansas City. We got Chiefs and we got some barbecue. That's about it, but we're proud of it.
Not only that, but you have really excellent niche data, and we'll get into that in just a little bit because I think it's really, really, really important, especially when we're starting out in our real estate journey, that we spend the most time with the people that have the potential to do business with us. And what that really means in what we do is the people that are looking for speed and convenience, the people that are looking for some help selling their property, or maybe they're going through a situation that they don't fully understand, so they need to be educated on that. So tell me, I know that you are a master at the pre-foreclosures, and that's really been the niche that you've made a name for yourself. So how did that all happen, and why work with these people? I mean, aren't these the hardest list? Isn't this the hardest list, right? They're getting calls from everywhere. They're getting bombarded all the time. They're getting a lot of attention. Why would that be a good list for us to go after to help these property owners and to find some great deals?
You know, it's super interesting. I came from the teacher background. I actually taught ninth graders algebra, which, believe it or not, is probably a harder sell than getting a house at 50 cents on the dollar. But I saw that was not going to be something that I was going to do for 30 years. No matter how much I saved or budgeted, it just wasn't enough. So I found myself wanting to get into real estate. Fortunately, my folks had a nice job for many years before that. And I said, hey, look, I don't know what I'm doing in real estate, but if you guys will fund a deal, I will do all the work. We can go 50-50. So for about a year, I found properties off of auction websites and different things. I don't know if you remember Hubzu.
Oh, yeah.
From many years ago. But I bought a few houses off of there. I did all the work, made a little bit of money on these properties, but not enough to make a living on. And I found myself in a situation pretty quick that I either needed to go all in on real estate and quit teaching, or it just wasn't going to work out. So I left my job in teaching and went into real estate, which it was a bold move at the time with having very little money in my bank account. But 6 months go by. I'm flipping a few houses. They're breaking even. They're losing a little bit of money. I'm buying these houses mostly from realtors off the MLS, etc. They exaggerate the ARV, minimize the amount of repairs, thus breaking even. And I came to a point where I happened to be in a spot where I might lose my home. I was in a very, very bad spot financially. And I was working on this property. I was actually finishing up the repair request. The closing was the next day. I was due to make $20,000 on this property. It was going to be what got me out of the poorhouse. Well, as I was doing those repairs, I got on a call from the appraiser. The appraiser says, hey, look, this property appraised for $20,000 less than the contract said, thus wiping out in any of the profit that I was going to make. I got off that phone call. I go to the side of the house, kind of put my paintbrush and all the stuff that I was working with down, sit on the side of the house, and Brent just wept. Mm-hmm. I was in a bad spot, as many of you listening to this probably have been in. And for about an hour, I just sat there and felt sorry for myself, didn't know what I was going to do next. But something within me kind of arose up and was like, you're not going to be that guy that doesn't provide for your wife. You're not going to be the guy that doesn't provide for your family. You've got to figure it out. So over the next, couple weeks, I'm trying to figure out what to do next because I still don't have a whole lot of experience in real estate. But I'd done some deals, but I was like, I know I can do this. So I'm sitting on my back deck, Brent, and my wife is like, look, Michael, you need to get out there and do something. Like, you've got to provide. So I pull out my phone, I scroll through Zillow, and there was a little property with a red dot next to it. The red dot meant pre-foreclosure. Knew of pre-foreclosures, but had never bought one. This property happened to be about a half mile from my home, oddly enough. So I decide, well, I'm just going to walk over there and see what happens. I have no idea what I'm doing. So I get over to the house. Property's on Aspen Street in Lee Summit, Missouri. And I walk up the driveway. Heart rate's going 200 beats per minute, just freaking out because I'd never done this. I knocked on the door. I figured the guy would cuss at me or spit at me or kick me out of his lawn or whatever. But I just said, hey, my name's Michael. I happen to live in this subdivision too. Noticed your lender was giving you a little bit of a hard time. I just wanted to see how I could lend a hand. And instead of kicking me out of his house, he welcomed me in. He talked to me for like a good 90 minutes, spilled out his guts on what him and his wife were going through. And at the end of the conversation, we ended up, filling out a purchase agreement. I got it under contract. I signed that a few days later for about a $50,000 profit. And all of a sudden, Pandora's box was opened in my head, and we were off to the races, and my life's never been the same ever since.
Wait, how do you go from doing fix and flips where you're breaking even to getting a deal that you wholesale? How did you even know what wholesaling was? Why weren't you wholesaling before?
That's a different story entirely. This was actually my first direct-to-seller encounter.
Yep.
I'd never had an appointment before. I'd never done a purchase agreement of any kind, but I happened to pull something together. We filled out the agreement. Then I was like, well, crud, I don't have the money for this house. So I called up the title company I'd used a few times, and I was like, hey, I have this house under contract. I would like to make some money on it. Like, is there anything I can do to sell it to someone else? And they're like, oh, that's called an assignment. And I was like, oh, well, goodness. So they were like, here's this agreement. Go find a buyer, have them sign this, bring those two documents together, and we'll write you a check. And it's funny how things that are so simple can make us so much money. We just have to get past the fear of doing the things that we're afraid of doing.
Well, and another just golden nugget in there, Michael, is the title companies can help you structure any kind of deal. Any kind of deal, whether it be creative finance, whether it be an assignment, whether it be a novation deal, whether it be, helping you connect you with money guys for flips or contractors. I am telling you, it is a hub on the wheel, that title company and escrow officer and or closing attorney, depending on where your state is. Guys, it is absolutely critical that you get referrals for that person because it'll make or break your first few deals for sure. And then you could go and experiment with other people, but find somebody that's got a lot of experience and that's going to help walk you through. And I'm telling you, the title companies see every deal. They see every type of deal, and they love working with us. So reach out with confidence. Don't be scared. Because Michael, the first time I heard a title company, I was like totally intimidated. They have the most beautiful buildings. They have the most beautiful boardrooms. They have the most beautiful front reception areas. They got all these things, right? They're these big corporations. You're like, I don't even know what these people do. They're there to help you out. So make sure that you use them as a resource. So that is incredible. Hey, listen, Michael, you're like every fix and flipper. Right? Rely on wholesalers or agents or the auction essentially to get deals, right? Don't go direct to the property owner. Don't go and learn about their emotions. Don't go sit down with them. Don't really dig into everything that's going on or why they're in this situation or what their real deep motivation, right? We call it Hell Island. Like, what is their current state? What's their desired state? That's Heaven Island. And you went in on your first appointment. You probably got spoiled by it, to be honest, right?
Without a doubt.
Your first appointment, you go out there and you make $50,000 and save somebody from going through foreclosure.
Yeah, it's truly interesting. When I started, remembering how green I was and how far I've come, for the longest time I thought, well, you have to go through a real estate agent to buy a house because that's all I knew. Right? When I started real estate, there wasn't wonderful channels like yours and these different podcasts and things like that. So I was just going off of what real estate agents told me, and it took me being backed into a corner almost to force a good deal out of me. And then from there, I was like, oh, well, you can assign a property. And then it just was learning over the next decade to where I am now, done north of 800 foreclosure deals at this point. And it's just a way of life, and just want to help as many people that are getting into this business, change their life and change the lives of these sellers that we want to serve.
I love it. A true master at this niche. This is going to be incredible. So let's dig into this. Let's get into the nitty gritty here, Michael. How do you find the list of, obviously you can go right on Zillow and look for the properties that say that they're in foreclosure. Is there a better way? Is there a faster way? Is there a more effective way to find out the people that are in this situation or have been served a notice?
First off, let's go over where these pieces of information are stored, and then we can talk about the more efficient way. For the longest time, I went to gather information by myself. You could get that from, USA public notices. All 50 states have information there. Stuff like auction.com or other platforms like that. And then there are different attorneys out there that host these foreclosure sales, trustees they call them.
Yep.
And you can go to their websites and they have all that information. So if you wanted, you could go get that information manually, skip trace it, do all of that legwork, or you could focus more time on TTP, talking to people, and automate this data. So we have a service called nichedata.ai to where we've done this for you, to where this information is gathered from every site that you can imagine, 400 or 500 sources at this point, and gathers that information daily, skip traces it, and gets you more time speaking to sellers instead of doing that $10 an hour admin work.
So is it right when a notice comes out? That's when you get notified. Is it best? Well, first let's answer that. So right when the notice comes out, you get notified.
So every single day we gather this information. Then that information is provided in a portal for you. So it's the same day information that it comes out from the county.
Awesome. And do we go out to them that day? I mean, is it better to start the process as soon as they get the notification, or is it better to start after, a bunch of people have been reaching out to them or they're getting close to the auction? When is the best part in this timeline? Because typically, depending on the state, there's kind of like this 90-day window from the time that they get a notice to the time that it actually goes to the auction, right? For them to actually get bidders that are going to buy this property at auction, or it goes back to the bank. And so is it day 1 or day 90?
So it's all of the above.
Okay.
But as Ricky Bobby once said, you if you're not first, you're last, right? Mm-hmm. So you want to get there first, establish that relationship with the seller. So I like to have my acquisition people get out there to that doorstep day 1, make that cold call day 1, try to speak to these people. But also, you're going to have people at the very end of the process. They've stuck their head in the sand the entire time, so you're going to want to be there. So I'm a math guy. I had a math degree, so I'm kind of nerdy on that. So over all of the deals, I plotted it on kind of a timeline. And generally, people take action in the first 14 days after a notice of trustee sale is filed, or they take action in the last 14 days until the sale. Imagine the people at the beginning. They're actually responsible people. They've just had something in their life, a catalyst that has happened to them. Maybe their spouse has passed away. Maybe they've gone through some traumatic health issue. Something has happened to where they got behind on their home, but they get that notice of trustee sale and they're like, oh my goodness, I cannot rest until this is taken care of. I need someone to come in here, walk me through my options, potentially sell my house to them. Good to go. Other people, they aren't so fast acting, right? They want to look at other options. They want to wait. They want to procrastinate. It's in the nature of these sellers to do that. So then at the very last minute, when they're up against it, they then reach out to those of you who have been persistent throughout, following up with them, providing value, and oftentimes will sell right before the sale.
And how do you open up a conversation with these people? What do you say to them to where, one, you're being compliant, and we'll get to that in just a second, because this really is a trap that I see for a lot of, really excited real estate entrepreneurs. They can really do a bad job here. They can really be kind of deceitful in this process. And this is usually where you see, lawsuits come up. At least when it comes to like consumer protection lawsuits, not necessarily coming from the property owner themselves, but a lot of complaints about what happens in the foreclosure, what was said, all those things. So how do you go in there and explain what you're trying to do, and do it in a compliant way? Because this is really important, guys. This is really, 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 this is a slippery slope. It truly is, because there is a lot of different ways to go out there and get those people to call you by being deceitful and getting into a relationship with them and walking them down the wrong path. And Michael's here. Specifically, I wanted Michael here to put this in the right way and put this in your hands so that you can go out there and do it the right way and do it long term. So what do we say to them and how do we do it?
Yeah, first off, one of my core values is treating these people the right way. And you're going to come across a lot of situations where you could take advantage of someone. And unfortunately, people do that. But my goal is to kind of change how people look at real estate investors from, the greasy car salesman, the low baller, the cheaters to, hey, look, those real estate investors, they want to make money, certainly. But they're pretty doggone good people, and they'll take care of you. So first off, you've got to come into each one of these situations with the right heart. And I come from a background of faith, so you don't necessarily have to believe that, but I believe this is my mission field, not just my vocation. So I really want to serve these people, but kind of a way that I've always approached it. The first line, it's funny, it's almost the same as the first street that I went to on Aspen. I can just simply call them up, door knock them, text them, whatever it might be. Hey, my name's Michael. I noticed Wells Fargo was giving you a hard time. I'm guessing you probably have it handled, but I just wanted to reach out, go through some options with you, and see if I could be a value add. Something like that, to where I come across as an authority, someone that also acknowledges their situation and shows some care. But I just want to be that trusted advisor in their life. I don't want to be the real estate investor that is just trying to take advantage of a bad situation.
So what are the options that you give them?
Yeah. So you and Pace actually did a video about this many years ago. I think you guys had 9, a bunch of different options, but I've kind of pared it down to 5. Number 1 is they can reinstate the loan. Reinstatement just means, hey, you haven't made a payment in 6 months. There's interest, there's fees, etc. Maybe you're 15 grand behind. Okay, do you have a way of bringing that current? Maybe some family members can help you with that. Maybe you can get a short-term loan, whatever it might be. Walking them through that option to see if that is viable. Many times it is, many times it isn't. Then you have the second option of a loan modification. I've had many examples over the years where people, maybe they've lost their job. They get $10,000 or $15,000 behind. They regain their job. So now they can afford the payment, but maybe they can't afford the reinstatement.
Right.
And they're a perfect candidate for a loan modification, but many people, they've lost their jobs. They can't afford a loan modification because oftentimes you do that, your payment's going to increase. So while they want to stay in the home, sometimes the loan modification is not great. You're just walking them through that process, see if they've spoken to their lender, see if they have filled out a loss mitigation packet to see if they even qualify. Walk them through that. Oftentimes they'll say, hey, I don't have a job, I don't qualify. Or I've gone on this journey with my lender before, and they just don't seem willing to work with me. Walk them through those few options. Then there's the slippery slope of bankruptcy, which is the third option, right? First off, we are not attorneys in most cases. That's us new wholesalers. Do not get in a situation to where you are recommending bankruptcy, or you're helping them fill out paperwork, or you're dropping it off at the courthouse. Big no-no. I understand that you're trying to help them and your heart's in the right place, but these are attorney activities. and you can get big trouble for that. So you can mention that bankruptcy is an option. It could potentially delay the sale, maybe even refer them to a third-party attorney, but try to stay far away from there. You can get into trouble. So option 4 is the cash sale. We love the cash sale as an investor, to where you can give them the best offer you can, move on right past that. And option number 5, Pace's favorite, sub 2, to where we can reinstate the loan, we can take ownership of the property, and then perhaps we can have some option down the road to provide some flexibility for the seller, maybe get a little bit of money in their pocket, maybe give them some post-possession time and figure out the next step. But those are the 5 we focus on.
Incredible. When you mentioned you go to the door, you give them a call, you give them a text, you send DMs, which one works the best?
You know, it's interesting. The best ones that at least in my business are going to be the door knock and the cold call. Mm-hmm. That is the ones that have churned off the most deals for me. And third place, oddly enough, Facebook messages.
So how do you find people's profile on Facebook?
So obviously you can go skip trace information anywhere. Get the name of the homeowner, right? You know what city they're from. You know what address they're on. You can type that into Facebook, right? And oftentimes if you are a little bit creepy and you search people, you can figure out with a few pieces of information that this is probably them. Maybe they have a few relatives or friends that are the same as the skip tracing, whatever it might be. And simply go in there, shoot them a message that's similar to the opening line that I said. And you can, like their posts, tell them that you sent a DM. And oftentimes you'll get through to them that way. A lot of people are texting. A lot of people are calling. A lot of people are knocking. Not so many people are going that extra step of sending them a message like that. And as you know, Brent, to get these deals, there's some competition out there, and you want to be where other people are not.
Yeah. So reinstate the loan, loan modification, bankruptcy, cash sale, sub 2. The last 2, 4 and 5, is them getting out of the house. The first 3 is them attempting to stay in the property and work it out with the bank and or figure out their finances. When somebody wants to stay in the house, they can't do the loan mod. It didn't work, or for whatever reason. They can't reinstate the loan. They can't get somebody to give them a loan or help them to catch that up. The bank's just not willing to work with them. They're not in a position to do the bankruptcy. How does that conversation go to where you're like, listen, like, you can stay in here, but if you don't catch up on this, they're gonna take the house. You know what I mean? You're going to go through this foreclosure. Do you go into all of the ill effects of what happens with the foreclosure? Because, Michael, you were in it, I think, a little bit with maybe getting behind on some payments. I foreclosed on 5 properties. So I know this very intimately, being a knucklehead in my 20s, buying properties and then watching them go down in value 50% in 6 months here in Phoenix, and then tenants not paying the bills, and then adjustable rates ramp up to like 8 or 9% when they were 1%. I was the dumbest guy ever, right? But I went through this, the whole process. Right? And it was on my credit for a long time. I mean, that's from 2000, I think 9, 10. I think they were all done by 9. So that was 2016 before that was off my credit. Wow. That's 7 years where I couldn't buy a property. I mean, there were some programs here and there that they were doing just because so many people foreclosed, but they weren't really great terms. So, I mean, 7 years in the prime of my life. Not really. I think we're all in the prime all the time. But in the younger years where it's like, if I bought more properties back then, when the properties were super cheap, holy cow, what a difference that would make in my life. I couldn't buy any for 7 years. So do you have those conversations with the property owners? Is it appropriate to have those conversations with those? Do you refer them to somebody that's, I don't know, a real estate attorney or something? Like, what are we allowed to say and what are we not allowed to say? I know you're not an attorney, but where do you draw the line?
So it's interesting. A lot of these people want to stay in their home. Mm-hmm. And it's not because they love their box with 4 walls. It's just because it's what they know.
Sure.
And what they're comfortable with. So I have a framework for that particular situation where they're adamant, hey, look, I can't reinstate, I can't do a loan modification, I don't want to file bankruptcy, but I'm staying in my house. They're just adamant for that.
Yep.
So I have a framework called the box with four walls where we create some dissonance between staying in the house and what could be if they did so.
Yeah.
So I will often say, hey, look, I know you want to stay in the home. I actually was almost about to lose my home many years ago. I understand what that feels like. I understand wanting to stay where you're comfortable. But let's just do something. I'm not saying that you're going to sell, but if you did, paint a picture for me what it would look like 6 or 12 months down the road. Mm-hmm. They say something to the effect of, well, I wouldn't have the foreclosure anymore. I'd be able to move into a 3-bed, 2-bath apartment. I would have 6 months of income in my bank account. My truck was broken down. That would be fixed. I would have a fridge full of food, something like that. They would paint this picture for me. I said, okay, so you have this over here. Your family is secure. All of your needs are taken care of. Now, let's get back to where you are now. There is probably a path for you to stop the sale and stay in the home. But what you have done, unless your income changes, is put a Band-Aid on an infected wound.
Sure.
Okay? You are then going to have a postponed sale, but you're still not going to be able to afford the payments. We already went over that. Then, here in a few months, if you miss more payments, this is going to loop back around. All of a sudden, you're going to have more arrears, more interest, more fees, and you're going to be in a worse situation in 3 or 6 months than you were if you take this offer here. So, man to man, man to woman, what is best for your family? Over here, freedom, or staying here in the place that you think is your freedom, but it's actually your prison. And people oftentimes will start to think more objectively if they can really see a clear picture and a clear path forward. So I try to frame it in that manner.
Got it. And you talk about frames. What does that mean when you say frames?
So there's just different ways of thinking about things. So I have the 5-option blueprint or frame.
Yep.
And I have the box with 4 walls frame. That's just a way of overcoming that objection of people wanting to stay in the house. And many times you try to overcome that with logic or things like that. But they're firmly entrenched into the path that they want to stay in their home. You really have to get them to think and visualize what can be, compare that to where they are, and really critically analyze, like, what is better for my family?
Yeah.
The prison that I've built that I'm trying to stay in, or potential freedom over here with more money in your account, no foreclosure, immediate needs taken care of, etc.
Are you finding you've got this niche data? So is there more foreclosures? Is there less foreclosures? Is it the same amount? What are you seeing on that front?
You know, it's interesting tracking that over the last 6 or 12 months. For the longest time in America, you'd hover around 600 to 700 new foreclosures every day. Notice of trustee sales. We're not talking about notice of default or anything else. And then you'd have, of course, all the old ones. Right now, we're hovering around 1,000, 1,100 of them a day. So it's trended up 20, 30% at least. And I like to look at some leading indicators. Brent, you probably do some of the same stuff, but looking at credit card debt, right? How is that working out? Well, there's more credit card default right now than any time in a long period of time. I also saw a stat back in January that car default was at about 1.5%, right? I looked at that stat a few months ago, or last month actually, 6.5%. So it's 4x in that amount of time. So you can imagine credit card default, car default, what would be next? Mortgage default.
Yep.
So I'm definitely seeing an uptick in it. It's a great time to have this skill of being able to serve homeowners, solve their problems, and potentially buy houses if you provide enough value to them.
Yeah, Michael, one of my mentors, Derek, he sent me an article that was talking about how many FHA loans right now are being subsidized by the federal government through the COVID Relief Act, and it is something like 84% of people that were behind on their payments, and they go in for the loan modification. They take the amount owed, the amount that's in arrears, and then they put it on the back of it. They don't charge interest on it, but they put it on the back of the loan. They work to get about 20% of the payment as opposed to the full payment. So if somebody was paying $1,000, now they can pay $200, but that $800 a month is also getting added on to the back of the loan. So they're getting more and more and more into debt, and still with 20% of that payment, monthly payment locked in for like a year or 2 or 3 years sometimes, they're still 84% behind on there. And so there's going to be something that happens there, Michael. There's going to be, it's like 650,000 loans or something.
Yeah.
It's a wild statistic. I mean, take some time, guys, and just Google it and research it. But it is shocking the amount of subsidy going on with FHA loans specifically. And that can't go on forever. I mean, it just can't go on forever. So I think that there's going to be even a more uptick. Maybe it's something where, it's a slow release of these over time, I would assume. They got some smart financial people doing that. But are you hearing about that? Are you seeing that? Tell me about that.
Yeah, so those zero interest second mortgages are called partial claim mortgages. And I've been nervous about them since early COVID, 2020, 2021. I remember it when those deferments started coming out. Early COVID, I was at my sister's wedding, right? And I was talking to one of my cousin's husbands, and he said, yeah, we got an offer to not pay our mortgage for 24 months. I'm taking it. And I'm like, bro, if you're going to do that, you need to set this money aside. There's no way this is going to go well. They're going to want that money at some point. So for a long time, people were on deferments, 18 or 24 months. They did not have to pay their mortgage. Well, then from what I saw, the big lenders started having a problem financially because they really needed income from those. So they started selling the loans. Wells Fargo to Chase, whoever it might be. Then I started seeing a phenomena where the new company that bought that loan changed the terms of the loan, and they were saying, well, it's no longer at the end of the loan. We want that 18 months right now. Then they started putting these properties into foreclosure, and of course people weren't responsible in putting this money aside. They were buying Prada bags and Gucci shoes and whatever else, and people found themselves into bad situations. And I actually, before this podcast, got off a call with a seller in Fairway, Kansas, outside of Kansas City. She's $70,000 behind, is still somehow on a deferment from 2020 and getting COVID relief. And I'm like, how long is this COVID thing going to last? She still owes, about 120 grand on this $450,000 house, so she's going to be fine. But there's a ton of money and equity that she could have had if things were taken care of a long time ago and lenders had been responsible and foreclosed on the traditional timeline.
Yeah, I think that I think there's going to be an increase. I mean, you talked about going from 700 a day to 1,000 a day. I mean, that's a over 30% increase, and I think it's going to be more and more. Now, do I think it's going to be anything like 08 and 09? No, I don't. That was just absolutely bananas. The loans that they were getting away with back at that day, stated loans. If you've never even heard those terms, good. You don't need to know them. It's ridiculous what the banks were getting away with back then. But yeah, I just don't see. I just don't think that it's going to go to that point. I think that it'll still be interesting to see the uptick, but it's not going to totally crash the real estate market. But I think it is. Listen, if it's a strategy that you don't have a tremendous amount of marketing budget, you can't pay for paper leads, you can't pay for pay-per-click, you can't send out tens of thousands of mailers. You know what I mean? You can't. You don't have relationships built with people referring you all these deals like real estate agents or other investors or that type of thing. You need to get into hustle season. You need to talk to people. You need to pick up the phone or go to the door and have a quality conversation with the property owner and see if you could solve their problem. And the way that we solve them most of the time is a cash offer. At least our business, it's a cash offer. They don't want to deal with this anymore. They don't want to have a foreclosure on their credit. They have some equity and they just want to get out of it. And oftentimes these properties are in really, really rough shape, right? But if you don't have a budget for marketing to have people call you, you have to call them. You have to reach out to them. That's the only way that you're gonna have that the opportunity to help that person out of that situation.
Well, it's interesting. You would think that this strategy is only for the newbie, the people without any marketing budget. I don't know if you've seen it down in Phoenix, but across the country, I'm in a group called Collective Genius, and a lot of us have seen our ROI on traditional marketing kind of compress a little bit. I do a lot of traditional marketing myself, some billboards, some TV, some direct mail, things like this, right?
Yeah.
But I saw a stat, a graphic rather, that showed that single-family housing sales in 2024 were the lowest that we've seen in 30 years.
Yeah.
Even including times in the recession. So what does that mean? It means that there's less people that are willing to sell. Why? Well, it means that they probably refied if they had half of a brain back 2020, 2021, 2.5%, 3.5% interest rates, so they're locked into their rates. Inflation goes up, so people don't have down payments for new housing. Interest rates are 7%, give or take, right now, so people just can't afford that. So what does it lead to when people want to sell? It leads to them, they don't have much money, so they need to get the most for their offer, so they're having 4, 5, 6 people out. So if you're not on your game in terms of your sales, your marketing budget, it's going to be really hard to get a deal. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times these investors, they're paying too much for the house, so instead of getting like a 10 to 12x ROI, it's compressed down to 2 to 4. Mm-hmm. So does that mean I would stop traditional marketing? Heck no. It still works. I love it. But at the same time, does it make sense for the bigger shops doing 5, 10, 20 deals a month? Does it make sense to have a bolt-on direct-to-motivation arm? I think so.
And are you talking cold calling team? You talking door knocking team? What are you talking? What are you seeing in Collective Genius? What are they doing? That incredible.
A lot of those guys, they're spending hundreds of thousands a month on marketing. So they're doing all of that stuff we just talked about, the traditional marketing.
Yeah.
But they've seen a compression of the amount of deals that they can do and the ROI that they're getting. So they're always looking for an edge. Mm-hmm. So it's like, hey, well, why don't you come over here, go to the direct to motivation route, and hire a cold caller that just focuses on these deals. Hire a door knocker that just focuses on these deals. Hire someone that is a follow-up specialist or researches vacant homes that these guys come across. And then all of a sudden you might find another deal a month if you're smaller, deal a week if you're a little bit bigger.
What do you pay your door knockers?
So they're all commission for me. Well, it depends. Over the years I've had all commission. I've had people that they're employees, they get a small base and then they get a commission, but anywhere between 10 to 20%, depending on their skill level and the size of the deal that they generate.
Amazing. So 10 to 20% when it closes, mm-hmm. Right? And nothing up front for giving you the lead?
No, because usually we're providing all of the prospects. We call these prospects. They're not necessarily leads yet.
Right.
Once we get a hold of, we then give those to our acquisition people. They go work on it, and they just get paid on the close.
So, yeah, what I mean is you're not, hey, that was a great lead. Keep these guys going. You're not paying them a base. They're just on commission. They're paying for their own gas and tires and brakes and all that other stuff, right? And I've seen, other companies where they go, hey, any new lead, I'll give you $50 or $100, and then I'll, give you the commission once we get it closed. But you're just straight commission.
So we have a couple of different packages. One, they're all commission. They're going to get a higher percentage of the take.
The 20%, not the 10.
Yes.
Yeah.
Then the other folks, generally they have a small base, not enough to pay for all their bills, but enough to take care of a lot of it. And then they get a smaller commission because they have a little bit less risk.
What about leave behinds? What about you go to somebody's house, they don't answer, nobody's home, or they just don't answer, and do you leave anything behind? What are the do's and don'ts for that?
So I try to juice the juice out of everything that I do. So if you're at a door knock and you knock on the door, they don't answer, and you leave, you basically accomplished nothing. They didn't know you were there. But while you're there, of course, you want to leave some sort of marketing behind. A lot of people are leaving sticky notes. I know Pace and I did a piece of content a few months ago where he leaves like paper plates or something, just goofy. But you also want to talk to the neighbors, anyone around there. Do everything you can in every action that you do, and it'll yield more deals for you.
Got it. So you're just leaving, what do you leave behind?
Yeah. So we often will leave behind a door hanger, just leaves our phone number. Oftentimes it'll have a QR code that'll go to a website that kind of educates people on that 5-option framework that we've discussed. Sometimes people will leave sticky notes, just like, hey, give me a call type thing. Anything like that just gives you a chance to have a conversation with the seller down the road if they're open to it.
What shouldn't you leave them?
What shouldn't you leave them? You obviously have something in your head.
Well, there is the I am part of the bank, call us type leave behinds. There's the fake parcel, we try to get a hold of you leave behinds. There is the call us about this filing leave behinds that leaves mystery to it. I mean, there's all sorts of shenanigans, Michael. You know what I mean? I mean, I've been doing this I've seen it all. I mean, I've seen people leave the craziest things ever at the door to try to get somebody to give them a call and literally just kind of faking that they're part of the government and or part of the bank, you know what I mean? Or just, somebody that's Amazon, you know what I mean? Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, so we had talked about this before we went on air, but there is a company here in Kansas City, I obviously won't mention who it was, but they got more and more talented in terms of getting a hold of these sellers. And for a while I was like, oh, these marketing pieces are great. Like, I didn't even think of that. Well done. But then it got more and more deceptive as they went. And we got away from the pure essence of, we're here to serve these sellers. And if we provide enough value, there's be some money that falls out the bottom of the funnel. But we got to the point where we were doing deceptive tactics. Like you mentioned, hey, we're trying to pretend that we're an extension of Wells Fargo. We're actually one of their workers. They sent us out here to talk to you about a loan modification or whatever it might be. So of course, people immediately have trust with this, so they give them a call. Or perhaps you have a certified mailer. They leave the little sticky on your door, and UPS leaves those, and it says, hey, we have a piece of mail for you. Give us a call. Well, they would put their logo almost in the same exact spot that UPS would, same colors and everything. It's just deceptive. Guys, do not do that. Okay? Have the seller at interest first, yourself way down the road, right? Do the right thing. Do not leave these things. You'll end up in a world of hurt. This particular company ended up in a class action lawsuit. I think they had to settle for about $1.5 million. So there's big problems when you come to deceptive tactics like that.
Yeah. Listen, guys, Michael just went through the 5 steps here. Hey, can you reinstate the loan and get out of this? Can you do a loan modification with your bank? You're not filling out loan modification forms for these people. Let them do it with the bank. Let them handle that. Bankruptcy, don't touch it. I mean, if they're going through it, get a bankruptcy attorney and don't even refer them a bankruptcy attorney. Just let them do their thing. The other 2, cash sale and sub 2 here, guys. I see the biggest and Michael, let me know your thoughts here. This is what happens in Phoenix. One of the biggest, the biggest issues that arises is when a investor goes out there and says, I'm going to take care of this, and you don't have to leave the property. You can stay in the property. That's where you get caught. That is where you are totally misleading. You're going to totally rip them for all their equity. You're going to totally just trick them into maybe, we'll give you 2 years prepaid rent and we'll just take over your loan and your deed. And now we own your house. And then they go, wait a second, I didn't want to sell my house. This is the number one complaint that these people have when they're going to the attorney generals, when they're going to an attorney and saying, hey, I didn't want to leave my house. I didn't want them to own the house. They said that I could live here and they were going to help me out. Right? That's where it gets really, really ugly. Really ugly. Guys, if you're going to work with pre-foreclosures, they have to leave the house if they sell it to you. I am telling you that, listen, take your own advice. I mean, go talk to an attorney, do whatever you want to do. It's your life. But everything times zero is zero. If you do things the wrong way, eventually all of that profit is going to be sucked back out and you're going to lose it all. So my fundamental rule is in our business, and when I coach my students, is if you're going to work with pre-foreclosure, they have to understand they got to close this chapter and open up a new one. They got to move on with their life. This whole lease-back type of thing, this whole creative thing, this whole sign the deed over and do these type of things, stay away from it. You are buying the house, or they're going to work with their bank to stay in the house. They're not working with you to stay in the house. That is a huge part. And I will be really loud about that going forward, because the shenanigans that have gone on with pre-foreclosures is under the spotlight. I am telling you, that's when people get really, really, really angry. That's when people end up on the news.
So I call these deals Frankenstein deals, where you're just piecing things together and it's like, oh, you have a ton of equity. Well, you can stay for a few years. Well, maybe I'll sell it back to you down the line. We'll do this, that, and the other. Number one, things end up going wrong. You want to lease back a house to a person for more money than they could even afford before. It's generally not going to work. Well, then what's going to happen? Well, you might be nice for a while, but eventually you're going to have to evict them or do something. Then who's the bad guy?
Yep.
Right? So I've done all these things, not in a deceptive way. We've always been upfront with what's going to happen. But what happens at these deals? Oh, you buy a house that has a bunch of equity. There's people in there. Then all of a sudden, you have to go through this long process. Your cash conversion cycles forever. Then all of a sudden, you have this tenant, the roof goes down, the HVAC goes down. Well, who's going to pay for that? And then if you can't afford that, then they have bad living conditions, and that opens up a whole new can of worms. Mm-hmm. Guys, as Brent said, if you're going to do these deals, you need to be able to buy the house, transition them to the next thing, or kindly give them the resources to where they can stay. Yeah. You can do black level ninja stuff, but guys, that just leads to problems. Ask me how I know. Seriously. I mean, it really does. Everybody just... Listen, these people are obviously in financial distress, right? And they need help, and they need somebody that's going to be honest with them. And you got to be really honest, because there's other people that won't be honest. And they'll say, you can stay in here and we can give you all this stuff and don't even worry about it. We'll take care of everything. And then all of a sudden, you know, it's 2 years down the line and these people are getting an eviction notice and it turns into an absolute mess. Yeah. And I promise you, no jury is going to side with the rich investor. None of them. None of them. So just be smart. You can go and be of service, but know where your service ends. Know what is appropriate, what's not appropriate. Don't act like the bank. Don't act like you know bankruptcy, like you're a bankruptcy attorney. Don't go there and tell them that they can stay in the house because it's an easier conversation. Have the tough conversations. If you can buy the house, great, buy the house. If not, there's going to be how many a day? 700 a day. 1,000 a day. Yeah, there's so many down there in Maricopa. It's unreal. So guys, when you have a lead, you don't want to have to convince them. Nope. That they're going to work with you, fight and claw to get that contract, right? There's a difference between a sales process and convincing someone. We want to filter through the people that want to work with Brent, that want to work with Michael. Serve them, buy their house, get them to the next phase of your life, make some money. For those of them that you have to convince, they're probably not your client. Yeah. I have what's called a resource guide, to where it has every resource a seller might need that's in foreclosure. Maybe it's food banks, maybe it's clothes drives place, places that give grants to people that are out, they don't have any electrical anymore and they'll get their electric turned on. Just anything like that. And if they're those types of people, give them that resource and you've served that person and move on, and maybe you can work with them down the road. But do not sit there and try to beg these people to work with you. They're not your clients yet. Filter for the ones that are ready to move forward.
Yeah, I mean, we've done thousands of deals, and I'm telling you, Michael, every single time, when you look at the options of what they want to do, every deal that we do that's either wholesale or a flip deal, they understand I have to sell this. They've made the decision. They're selling this property. Every single one. You know what I mean? You don't have to like figure out this weird way to convince people not to sell their house. They're selling their house. That's the point. And if you do that, you're gonna have a really long, successful business, and you're gonna sleep well at night. And Tom Kroll, who created this podcast, created Wholesaling Inc., tells me all the time, success is a good night's sleep. It is, and that should be the North Star. And so just understand that other people are gonna beat you out. They will. Other people are gonna have different techniques, and they're gonna be able to do this and that. But in my opinion, and you can run it by any attorney you want, my opinion is if you're working with people in pre-foreclosure, they need to understand that they need to get out, or sit down with an attorney and a video and on camera and record it and say, I'm going to make hundreds of thousands of dollars on your property, if not more. You are not going to own the property after you sign this document. I will own this property. You understand that me paying to catch you up on this loan and you staying in the property for 2 years means that you no longer own the property. I own the property, and that's what's going on, and really disclose absolutely everything. But nobody does that, Michael.
No, they don't. And sometimes people are so excited to get their first deal, they don't even mean to do something wrong. They're just like, oh, they signed the contract, let's go do it. And then they realize, wow, we bought the house sub 2, but we didn't explain anything about this transaction to the seller. And then, like you said, down the road, there's going to be a tough conversation or situation.
Well, another one, just I know that this conversation is going long, but I think it's so important. I think people really need to understand the power of helping people out of foreclosure. It is wonderfully rewarding. I am telling you, the most hugs and the most crying and the most celebrating and the most Christmas cards that we receive are from people that were able to not have a foreclosure on their record for the next 7 years. You cannot imagine what kind of box that puts you in if you have a foreclosure on your record for 7 years. It's crazy. Okay? You got to do it the right way. You got to do it the right way, and you have to understand if you're helping them with a sub 2, this is where I was going. I kind of lost track there. With a sub 2, don't keep them in the house. Do not keep your sub 2 people in the house. This is ridiculous. I'm just telling you, if you sub to it, you do it cash, they need to move. They need to move. And be careful.
Definitely. I have so many stories. We could talk for hours about that.
Yep.
But guys, if you're a black belt, maybe, but I don't even recommend it then. Guys, if you're gonna work with these people, you need to be transparent with them from the very beginning. Lay out the path moving forward of how things are going to work. And you may lose that lead to someone else that has, some Frankenstein plan to move forward. But you know what? That's got to be okay. Like we've talked about, foreclosures on the rise. There's always someone else out there you can serve.
Yeah, unless you want to document it, disclose absolutely everything, make sure that everything is signed, everything is recorded, everything is so that you have a case when it comes. Because if you don't, nobody's going to believe the rich investor. I'm just telling you. So, guys, you can get that list, and a nice transition here. Nichedata.ai, you can get those lists of pre-foreclosures. It comes with the skip tracing. What else does it come with?
So it comes with all the skip tracing for not only the homeowner, but all of their relatives. So as you know, Brent, a lot of times these people pass away, or maybe they're in an assisted living community, or maybe they've just moved away. A lot of times you're needing to get a hold of the son, the daughter, the heir, whoever it might be. So we provide you all of the heirs information, contact information, addresses, phone numbers, as well as all of the property information. So all the beds, baths, taxes, anything that you'd want to know, equity, any of that type of stuff we provide for each data point.
Awesome. Guys, check that out. Is there a coupon code we can give them for listening to this? I know if you use the code TTP, like talk to people, is there any benefit to that, or is that just a benefit to me?
we'll make sure that there's something for TTP. I'll have Brent put it down in the description after we're done.
Awesome. Well, Michael, so great to have you on here. I've got several students that speak really highly of you and your community. Tell me a little bit about that. You teach this and teach it the right way and really get nitty gritty with the techniques that you use helping people in foreclosure. So where can people find that information?
Yeah, so if you want to go get the data, go get a deal, get some proof of concept, then you want to learn more and go deeper and sharpen your axe with a bunch of other people that are doing the same thing. You can check out our community, getnichenow.com, to where we just go not real wide, a couple feet wide in our knowledge, but 1,000 feet deep to where you're really a master of this particular craft. And then over time you can branch out to other things, but we really want to get niche, pun intended, and get really good at these pre-foreclosure deals.
There you go, guys. That is Get Niche. What was it? Get Niche. Sorry, I can't even read.
GetNichenow.com.
Now. I can't read my own writing. GetNichenow.com, guys. Check that out. Michael, thank you so much for being on here. We spent, almost an hour, and I think that this is one of the most important podcasts of the year. I really do. So thank you for being on here.
Oh, thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
Awesome.